Well, hello everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we have to talk about new car prices and options on new cars because, frankly, I think that it's gotten out of hand. Before we get in this video though, as always, if you're going to save time and money, the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Let's get into it. For those of you that don't know, I film cars for a living, car reviews, and I film for pretty much every single manufacturer except for some of the crazy highlines like, I don't know, Lamborghini or Ferrari. And because I am filming new cars every single day, I'm obviously looking at new car prices every single day because, well, that's part of the review videos that I post is I show the MSRP price on the vehicles. And, well, first off, the amount of price increases that I have seen over the last couple of years has been absolutely insane, and it's not in conjunction with a bunch of added features. The thing that is really concerning for me is the fact that I'm seeing these prices increase and then the amount of features that vehicles have seems to be decreasing. That's kind of what I want to focus on in today's video. But first off, let's talk about some figures. So the average household here in the US makes something like $70,000 per year. That's obviously before Uncle Sam takes his cut. And then if you look at like the average individual here in the US, they're making something like $40,000 to $50,000 per year. The average brand new car is around $50,000 now. So that means that automakers are saying that, well, to the average householder, to the average individual, you're gonna have to spend either your entire yearly salary or almost your entire yearly salary on a car if you wanna buy a brand new car. Like, just think about that for a second. That is absolutely ridiculous. We're not talking about a house. We're talking about an automobile, something that, you know, in a normal market depreciates a massive amount. And so it's not like these people are spending $50,000 and then they're going to be able to get $50,000 out of this thing, you know, in a few years. It's like they're spending $50,000, and then if they keep that car for, let's say, 5 to 7 years, with most cars, that means that the car is probably going to be worth something like, I don't know, $20,000. So they're going to lose $30,000 over the course of, you know, their ownership with, you know, most cars with a 5 to 7 year ownership. But aside from that, the other part is the fact that there's not any like additional benefits to these new vehicles with how expensive they've gone. And it's actually been the exact opposite. So a really good example is with brand new trucks. So when I sold trucks as a car salesman, I remember that if you spent like $50,000 on a pickup truck, then you could get a pretty like loaded up pickup truck. Like even, you know, as pickup truck prices increased, it was still, you know, a reasonable amount of money to get you like a reasonable truck, if that makes sense. So options that you might get. Well, you know, maybe heated seats and heated steering wheel at the time, pretty nice infotainment system, power sliding rear window. That's something I want to emphasize. You know, usually bed liner in the back of the truck, 4-wheel drive, right? And then, you know, maybe some other options like with pickup trucks, you know, something that a lot of manufacturers added over the last, you know, decade or so is like LED lights into the bed, for example. You know, cargo tie downs, that's been something forever, but, you know, sliders in the bed, that's kind of another thing. But the point that I'm trying to make is, again, just a few years ago, you could get a really nice loaded up pickup truck for $50,000. Nowadays, $50,000 buys you like a base model truck. But then if you step up and spend, let's say, $60,000 on a pickup truck, you're still not getting like as nice of a pickup truck as you would think. Like I've reviewed several $60,000 pickup trucks over the last few weeks, and they were missing options. Like, you know, in some cases, you know, no bed liner. Well, not in some cases. In a lot of cases, no bed liner. You're not going to have LED bed lights in a lot of them. No power sliding rear window. And I could just go on and on with all of the options that are missing. And this seems to be what a lot of other automakers are doing as well, is not only have, like I said, they've inflated the prices a massive amount, but they've also cut options. Like the amount of standard equipment that is in the average vehicle seems to be decreasing as time goes on, not increasing. And you think it would be the opposite, because the argument that I'll always hear from automakers and, you know, from other people in the car industry is, oh, well, vehicles get more expensive because they have more benefits. Like the reason why this vehicle costs more today than it did 20 years ago is because it has more tech. And it's like, well, yeah, that was kind of the general trend until the pandemic. And now post-pandemic, it's like vehicles are more expensive. And now if you want the extra tech, you have to pay like a huge price premium. And if you don't, you know, pay for that extra tech, then like you're still paying a big price premium for the vehicle regardless. Like it's just, I mean, when you think about it, it just doesn't really make any logical sense. Now, with that being said, not all automakers are doing this little formula of basically nickel and diming their customers and giving them a base vehicle with like a super expensive price and not a lot of options. There are some other makers that are still, putting a bunch of standard equipment in their vehicles, like Subaru, for example. Almost everything is standard with those. If you buy like a new Toyota, pretty much everything is standard with those. But even Toyota is starting to kind of make it so there's more and more options on their vehicles. That's something that I've also noticed is some of these manufacturers that, historically made it so pretty much everything was standard equipment, they've now kind of gone away from that. Kia and Hyundai, those seem to be manufacturers that keep everything as standard. Like the only options I ever see on like a Kia or a Hyundai whenever I review them is like carpeted floor mats, which I find so weird. Like I don't understand why the one thing that they decide to make optional equipment is having carpeted floor mats. It's weirdest thing ever. Maybe I need to go and talk to one of the people at the manufacturer with one of those manufacturers and find out exactly what's happening there. But it's just something that you can somewhat avoid in today's market if you don't want to deal with like the nickel and diming on every single option. But at the same time, every single manufacturer is still seeing price increases, and so even if you get a car that has a bunch of equipment as standard, you're still probably going to be paying more for that car today. Well, not probably. You will be paying more for that car today than what you would have paid for it yesterday, and it's not necessarily meaning that you're getting more equipment or better equipment today. In some cases, with all of the post-COVID production issues we've been seeing with vehicles, you're actually getting, technically worse equipment. I mean, the amount of recalls that we're seeing, the amount of shop visits that people are having to go through, like it just seems like it's getting worse and worse. And so in summary, the price increases we've been seeing over the last few years have just been absolutely insane. And, if we were at least getting some extra options on these vehicles to kind of, make it so those price increases somewhat made sense, then, right, that would make sense. But that's not what's happening. Automakers are increasing the prices on their vehicles and they're decreasing the amount of standard equipment on their vehicles. And this is just a trend that seems like it's just continuing to escalate. And well, I would say to an automaker, like, don't do that. This is maybe something that makes sense in the short term for profits and all that kind of stuff. But for long-term customer happiness, definitely not. Like, think about how a customer would feel if they went in, and we'll use the pickup truck example. If they go in to buy a $60,000 pickup truck and then find out that it's missing a bed liner, it's missing a power sliding rear window, maybe it's missing a power seat, maybe heated steering wheel. Like, there's just so many different options that these vehicles don't have anymore and with how expensive they are, it's crazy. So I think automakers should pull back, make more equipment standard, and just make it so the prices make a little bit more logical sense considering everything that's happening within the market. And I would say that as someone who has bought several vehicles from a bunch of different manufacturers, that the manufacturers that offer basically everything as standard equipment and not a lot of options to choose from are the manufacturers that I personally prefer to order from when it comes to being a customer. And I'll give two different examples. So last year I purchased a Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro for my wife. Now I didn't order this vehicle. This was one that just showed up on a dealer lot, but I was so willing to just buy this vehicle off the dealer lot and not really think about ordering one, because with a Toyota 4Runner TRD Pro, pretty much everything's standard equipment. The only thing you can really choose is like exterior color, and then there are a few options, but it's pretty minimal in terms of the options. And so it's like, oh, if there's one available, it's just either I like the color or I don't. That's pretty much how the situation went. Whereas I just traded that 4Runner for a Land Rover Defender that I ordered about 6 to 8 months ago. Now with the Defender, there were several Defenders that landed at the Land Rover dealership that I chose not to purchase because of how many freaking options you can add on this vehicle. I know some people might think that's the coolest thing ever, but it kind of makes things complicated, because it's like, well, first off, I had to choose a powertrain, and then I had to choose an interior and exterior color, and then there's so many other options. Like I had to choose what package I wanted with the exterior in terms of like the off-road package, and then there's other like off-road tech packages like, hey, do you want this to be more or less capable off-road? What tires do you want? What wheels do you want? What color do you want the pillars to be? What color do you want these little side inserts in the windows to be? Like, there's so much customization, which again, I know some people might think is the coolest thing ever, but for me personally, I'm like, this is kind of overwhelming, and also like it adds up quickly. It's like, oh, this vehicle starts at this price, and then after you add all your options, it's like it's way more expensive. And that's obviously something that automakers are trying to capitalize on. I don't know. Let me know what you guys feel, how you feel about the whole situation, but I think that automakers should kind of veer back towards the route of making more equipment standard, just simplifying their model lineup, and just frankly, again, biggest thing is just bringing some of these prices more in line. Like, again, I'll go back to the pickup truck example. $50,000 for a base model pickup truck. Like, that's crazy. I mean, come on. When the average person, individual person makes around that amount of money, like, how are they going to afford a pickup truck at that point? I don't know. That's going to sum things up. I'll see you.